Welcome to the world famous Bitcoin Original Gangster, the show that takes no shit when it comes to SegWit. On this show, we'll be defending Bitcoin gangster style and exposing the shit in shitcoins. The idea of this show is that you ask us your questions on crypto and we'll tell you all that we know. Let's get the disclaimers out of the way. All the opinions that you hear on this show are opinion and must only ever be taken as opinion. They are never to be taken as any form of advice, family, financial, sexual or otherwise. And on that note, let's rock and roll. Hey, TK, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ah, fantastic.
Can you hear me?
I can, mate. Coming through loud and clear.
All right. Let's see. Cool. What's up, my brother?
Yeah, mate. Let's do this. Let's start where we left off.
I don't know what we're doing, but I'm cool to just dive in. What's happening?
Yeah, mate. Just ask me. I think when we finished that last interview, you were saying that we probably could have carried on for another hour with all the questions that you had and things that you wanted to know.
Yeah,
so just fire them at me.
So okay. Let me gather my thoughts. So I'm interviewing you now.
Yeah, if you like, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, just fire away. What questions you got? Opinions and stuff. Facts you want to know. What is it you think you're? What is it that you think you might still be missing? That could tip you over the edge from being 99% sure to 100%.
Also, I'm already at 100%, but I'm learning to satiate curiosity and to understand the beauty of what we're dealing with here. But I want to ask a combination of two kinds of questions. Some of which will be just mine understanding, filling in gaps in my understanding. But some of it will be things that I want some of your viewers to hear. I caught one of your previous interviews with I forget her name, but there was an interview where you were asking a lot of questions about Bitcoin, saying these are things that people are asking you. So
yeah.
To those types of
Crypto finally, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with what is the unique value proposition of BSV in comparison with other things like BTC and BCH?
Well, in Bitcoin in general, the value proposition or the fundamental value of it is the growth of the network without any central point of authority for 10 years. That is what neither the US government or the Chinese government or anyone else can just simply replicate overnight. So when that douchebag Rubini, whatever his name is, says that cryptocurrencies have zero fundamental value because they can be created by anyone, anywhere, at any time, which therefore indicates there's an infinite supply, which gives them zero value. He's correct in saying that. But what he hasn't realized is that in order for a currency to be neutral, it has to have a decentralized starting point, which is what Satoshi did. Because Satoshi released the paper in English to the Western world, but gave himself a Japanese pseudonym so that no one knew who he was. And people weren't really all that bothered because, like I said, China, Japan even, is a politically neutral, highly developed, technologically advanced country. So therefore, people didn't question it all that much. So his pseudonym gave him the best chance of not being found. And so he knew it was absolutely categoric and fundamental to the project to not have any influence over the growth of the network, because that would completely undermine its value. So that's what this guy Rubini misses. So then, in terms of realizing that, well, any currency that has a centralized starting point, has no fundamental value, that basically discredits every other single shitcoin on the entire cryptocurrency market, because they all have centralized starting points and points of influence and control. So that only leaves the Bitcoin network, which then leaves the chains that are on it. So we've got BTC, BCH, and BSV. And then you have to look at, well, because Bitcoin is a medium of exchange, it's a tool that enables the facilitation of trade. So which one is going to facilitate trade in the best way? Well, it's the one that can include the entire market. So you've got BTC that can only handle 7 transactions a second. So that's no good. I wouldn't service my local supermarket. Then you've got the Lightning Network, which doesn't give you any reasonable expectation in the trade, which means you've got no legal recourse because the Lightning Network is not immutable. So you can't go to a judge and say, look, I sent this load of data and he deleted it. I want it back. The judge will be like, well, prove you sent that data. So, well, he's deleted it. I can't. It's ridiculous. It's that crap. The Lightning Network is utter bollocks, and the chain doesn't, and the chain doesn't scale. So that can't. Very closed market, very limited people can use that. And then you look at BCH. Well, they're going anonymous, and they're adding coin mixes and all that kind of stuff. And in order for people to have protection in the trade, as in like global commerce, they need legal recourse. So therefore, in order to have a reasonable expectation, you have to have sent the value. And secondly, you have to have proved that you've sent it. If the transaction is anonymous, you can't prove it. And if you can't prove it, you've got no claim on it. It's as simple as that. So that only leaves BSV. It's kind of simple, really.
All right. So great presentation. Let's talk about altcoins. You made the claim earlier that altcoins, they're eliminated right off the bat because they have these centralized starting points, unlike Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What would you say to the devil's advocate objection of, yeah, we have a centralized starting point, but we could scale enough to have a decentralized, to achieve decentralization, as a matter of fact, even though we didn't start that way?
Well, I mean, it depends what they were issuing the token on. So let's say, for example, you've got Binance token. The moment Binance...
Let's not use Binance token. Let's use something that's... Let's use something, because I hear from a lot of people on social media who are behind things like Digibyte or behind things like Dash. Okay. Yeah. Could what would you say if they argued, hey, Digibyte or Dash or Nano could eventually scale and achieve decentralization? What's your response to that?
Well, they have a centralized starting point. They've all been created by someone.
Starting point, something that eliminates you right off the bat. Why can't you achieve decentralization?
Because it discredits it. Because those people who created it have therefore had control and influence over the growth of the network.
But can't you create something and have this control, but eventually grow it beyond yourself so that you are no longer relevant?
Well, this is the thing. So you've got to look at how big is this thing going to get before, for example, China and America say, hold on a minute, there's something going on here. And then, we're looking at BTC with a market cap of like 162 billion. And people are just like, oh, that's a lot of money. China could create their own digital currency tomorrow and literally probably roll it out to their entire country within 2 weeks. And immediately you've got a cryptocurrency with a market cap of 12.5 trillion, which completely undermines these projects like Digibyte and Dash.
Okay, so I get that, but that would not only be something that has a centralized starting point, but it would be centralized to its core, right? That would be a private blockchain if China issued their own cryptocurrency. Are you in agreement with me on that?
Yep.
Okay. Could a case be made that where one of these altcoins differs is that even though they have centralized starting points, if they achieve scale, they could become decentralized as a result of that? So let me give an example with Bitcoin, because one could argue that Bitcoin does have a centralized starting point, at least when Satoshi is working by himself, or if you say, there were helpers or whatever. Let's just say Team Satoshi is like 3 people, right? Headed up by Satoshi. Mm-hmm. That's pretty centralized, right? Because you got 3 people, small number of people making all the decisions, deciding what it's going to be, mapping it all out and so forth. But decentralization is achieved by scaling it so that it becomes this sort of thing that not one person controls. This is the argument. This is the counter argument against people that are always worried about Craig Wright that you and I would make, right? Like, stop worrying about Craig Wright, because he's the only one that's locking down the protocol. He's the only one that's building something that is going to grow so big that, as he says, neither him nor God can change it, right? Mm-hmm. So can't you do that at a later time? If some other altcoin locked down their protocol or scale long enough, couldn't they be decentralized technically?
Well, this is it. So this is where it comes down to a medium of exchange being competitive by nature. So you have to look at which one are you going to choose. If America started their currency, you can write it off because China will never use it. And if China started their currency, America would never use it.
Absolutely right.
So therefore, you're looking at Digibyte and Dash and all these others, and all these other coins have got centralized starting points. So they're not necessarily neutral. Why would you choose them when we've already got this other one that has had 10 years worth of growth without any central point of authority or influence or control over it? That's the competition.
Yeah, so the part that I like about your argument is that the number one, the network effects are clearly superior. And number two, there's the lockdown protocol. I think those two by itself are enough to resolve the dilemma, because I think BSV is the only one that boasts a lockdown protocol that boasts the combination of lockdown protocol, network effects, and true scalability. Where I want to push back though is this notion of a decentralized starting point. Do we really have the right to say that our starting point is decentralized?
Well, what I'm saying is Satoshi decentralized the starting point as much as he could. That's all you can do, because the starting point is a single entity. It's a bit like the universe starting with hydrogen. Out of hydrogen.
Do we need to defend the notion that our starting point is decentralized? That's what I'm asking. Like, I don't know if that really matters, as long as the protocol is locked down and it's scalable, and we know that this isn't subject to just arbitrary tinkering like what we may see with Core. Isn't that enough? Like, do we need to make ourselves defend the starting point being decentralized?
Well, if you're gonna have a debate with somebody and you want to start from the beginning, then yeah, it's critical. But this is what I'm saying. It was the growth of the network over a period of time that gives it its value. And you're saying, well, how long can we say? How long is long enough? How long is that growth period worth? How long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
The fact is, it's like if you just started a currency, like Satoshi Nakamoto did, and there was only a few people on the network, you could argue that it wasn't worth anything. It was like centralized, and it wasn't anybody could make one the next day, and it could and let's say if they ran a political campaign and wanted everybody using their token, it'd probably be more valuable because more people would be using that. But what I'm saying is, it's when you look at a medium of exchange and choosing which one you're going to use, is anybody going to use yours now? Why should they use yours over Bitcoin? When they're like, well, look, everybody's using Bitcoin already, and nobody was influenced by a central point of authority, waving flags, going, look, buy our coin. It's people chose this.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so you mentioned BCH and BTC as having the same network effects. In terms of the mainstream narrative, BTC and BCH seem to be more popularly accepted than BSV. What would be your response to someone saying, well, hey, BTC and BCH have the network effect, so if I'm going to choose that, I'm going to choose based on that. That's where I should go.
I'd say, great. Just come back to me in a few months. Tell me what your opinion is then.
Okay, so I agree with you on the prediction, but what's your argument for why you think that's a rational prediction to make?
Well, it's just time. It's time and knowing what's coming. Knowing, it's scaling for usage. If something isn't used, because it's a medium of exchange, those things that are not used will just effectively be phased out. Just like, you remember I gave that example before of the North American Indians using wampum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just got phased out because it facilitated trade at the time and it was useful at the time. But as something more superior came along, it just simply phased out because everybody used that. That's just simply what's going to happen here with BSV.
Yeah, you got to be able to do trend analysis, man. You got to be able to take a look at the world not merely as it is, but as it is progressing, as it is evolving. And so many people miss out on just that basic point. The example I like to use and I use this in my conversation with Steve, Derek, and Isaac. Is let's say you got two guys. One guy physically he looks really lean, but all he ever does is sits on the couch and eats Doritos and donuts.
Yeah.
And but he still looks lean. The other guy is a little bit overweight. He doesn't look athletic at all, but every single day this guy is working out, exercising. He's changed his diet, he's eating good, and he's been doing this pretty consistently for about 2 weeks right now. But because he hasn't had a lot of time, he looks the same as he's always looked. And so if you look at these two guys based on outward appearances, you would say the skinny dude is the one that's healthier. But if you try to predict what's going to happen based on trend analysis, it's pretty easy to predict who's going to be ahead of the curve in 3 months, right? If both of these guys keep up what they're doing, I'm putting my money on the guy that looks a little, out of shape, because he may not look as cute right now, but he's doing the kinds of things that are going to build athleticism. All right, let me move to it. Do you like that analogy?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, it's like it's like football teams when they evolved. First of all, a football team was formed. Then there was money in the game. Then they started then they started academies for the young kids coming through. Developing talent early. It's all business. It's business decisions really. It's investment. That's what it is.
Yeah, for sure, man. All right, so here's something that people get tripped up on a lot. Protocol lockdown. I want you to explain what the heck does it mean to say that BSV has locked down the protocol? Because for a lot of people out there, this doesn't even seem like it makes any sense, right? What does it mean?
If you imagine building a house, you've got to imagine that the protocol is the foundation. So if that foundation is solid as a rock, then you can be sure that the house that you build on it is going to be there in 100 years' time. Whereas if you build it on a fault line, in a place where there's regular earthquakes and stuff like that, chances are it's not going to be there very long. That's what the protocol is. The protocol is the set of digital processes laid out that enable Bitcoin to function. So when that protocol is locked down, people are just like, right, this is how it functions. That's how it's going to stay. Now we can work with it. That's locking down the protocol.
All right, and how does BSV achieve that? What is BSV doing that can give security that we're not going to witness a repeat of what happened in Core or what happened in BCH?
Yeah, I asked Steve about that. I was like, how is this protocol locked down? So basically, it's an agreement amongst all the miners that from that point forward, they will never change, never change. And if you look at, I mean, what's kind of interesting is that if you look at all the chains, sort of like from the Genesis block, you've got to look at what BTC have done. Blockstream added SegWit. They're just like, well, you've changed it. You've basically got complete control over this. Then you look at BCH, and they were just like, oh right, well we're adding Avalanche, and we're adding coin mixers, and we're putting in whatever it was they called them, checkpoints. Every certain number of blocks. Yeah, they've tampered with it. They're changing it. They're messing around with it. Whereas like the protocol that Satoshi described in his white paper has been unchanged since day one from the Genesis block on BSV.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk with you about central banking and BSV. The ability to print money is very, very valuable for those who do it. It's a kind of tax on savers, right? But there are a lot of situations where the central banking system benefits tremendously by that ability to print money whenever they want, how much they want. I can't imagine that being the kind of power that just disappears overnight easily. I heard someone say, I'm going to botch this quote, but I heard them say something to the effect of, if you give a person a gun, they can possibly rob a bank. But if you give a person a bank, it can rob the entire world.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trashing the concept of banking in the most fundamental sense, but when it comes to central banking, there is a lot of power that comes with being in that position, being able to control money. For, when people in BTC are asked questions like, why do you think the legacy system won't destroy something like this? Why do you think they will allow this to happen? BTC's response is, well, they can't stop it even if they want to. Now, the problem with that answer, is that's a powerful promise, but weak delivery, right? They just can't deliver on that promise. If they could, that'd be awesome, right? Like, nobody can stop Bitcoin no matter what. That'd be awesome. But they're not able to deliver on that promise. I don't think they actually can. BSV, you agree with me so far, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. When it comes to BSV, my question to you is, why in the world would the central banking system cooperate with BSV when, if the things that Craig says about mutual accountability, mutual transparency, and cracking down on crime, why would they cooperate with BSV when there is so much power that they would lose by having to be transparent and by having to ensure that their money supply is grounded or anchored in something substantial and limited?
Well, this is it. So Bitcoin is an economic model, as in, like, it will only be around if it economically incentivizes and benefits people who use it. So therefore, you have to look at the technology that it offers, and, like I said, the power. I think you read the article that I wrote on the power of its decentralized, distributed single ledger. Well, think of the benefits that brings with it. Like I said, you can have all the air traffic control records on it, so that flight MH370 can't disappear again. You can have a system of driverless cars on the network because the network itself is distributed. And then you've got to look at the value of immutable data. I mean, everything is digital now. Visa and MasterCard, all the banks, they all run on digital data, and they are paranoid about that data. So now you're offering them a system which actually allows them, economies of scale and cost efficiencies in data sharing. So, like, let's say they would have their own private network if they want to share, large amounts of data with, within the network themselves. Now they've got a system where you can share that network with anyone anywhere in the world. So I mean, the issue with, like, at the moment with trying to share data is that you'll have to use, I mean, if it's too big to fit in an email, you have to use Google Drive. But then even Google Drive is still limited as to how much data you can put on that. And if you just simply share something on the internet, you can't control who's viewing it and who's not. Whereas Bitcoin allows all of that.
All right, but with respect to my question, it's, suppose the Federal Reserve looks at this and says, "Oh boy, I don't like the looks of this," because this is a kind of threat to the control we have over the money supply. If we have to tokenize and move over to BSV, then our money is going to be backed by something again. That's kind of a limitation on our power, right? That's a taking away of a major benefit for us. Why would they cooperate with it? And if they didn't cooperate, would that not be a major problem for BSV adoption?
Well, I think the first thing they would do is probably try and create a group of developers to try and destroy it and knock it down. So I think what they would do is they would probably funnel a large amount of money into multinational corporations and get those corporations to invest in a group of developers who would then change the narrative about Bitcoin was and tell everybody that it was a store of value, that it wasn't meant to be used, that it was censorship resistant money, that it's not meant to scale. So that nobody would use the chain, and therefore eventually the chain couldn't economically sustain itself, and then the project would die. That's what I think. That's what I think they would do.
Let's go ahead and be explicit with what we're talking about. That's not a hypothetical.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's hypothetical, mate. That's what I would do,
That's not a hypothetical, though, right?
Well, there's no proof to say that it's not.
I thought this show was always all about we're bringing the heat, man.
Well, I'm saying, well, if there's that's what I think that they would do. It would make sense in my mind. It just seems a bit of a coincidence that that's exactly what's happened.
Yeah. Okay, so let's continue on that premise. If that's something that they were willing to do, and supposing they actually did it and succeeded, just as an example, BTC, why would they not try to do it again if they see Bitcoin forked in response to being corrupted or co-opted, and now they see the dragon rising again? Why would they not try to kill that baby dragon? Clearly,
I think
they did it once. Why would they not try to do it again?
I think they would try and do it again.
Okay, so what makes BSV then invulnerable to that?
Well, it's not invulnerable to it. It could easily happen. I mean, we've seen crazy things in history go down. We've seen we've seen the Twin Towers being demolished in front of our eyes, or people thinking that a hollow aluminium aircraft could bring them down. We've seen JFK being shot, and we led to believe that it was one lone gunman and all this kind of stuff. I mean, they will try anything, which is why it's dangerous times. But Bitcoin is an economic model. If it didn't benefit people, it would just simply disappear, just like any business. If a business didn't provide a service that people didn't want, it would just simply wither away. And that's the same with Bitcoin. If it didn't provide the service and the utility that helped people out in some way, it would just simply disappear. But because of the centralized starting point, we only have this one chance in history to have a truly decentralized currency. So I mean, this is what's so important about it, and this is why there's kind of like real animosity between the camps, because those people in BTC and BCH, are actually destroying this opportunity that we have for the world to have a truly decentralized digital currency.
What would you say to the objection that we lost our opportunity? If Bitcoin wasn't screwed around with in the beginning, we would have made it because the world was ready for it. And the world didn't run away from Bitcoin until the watered down version that was presented to it revealed itself to be insufficient for our needs. That's when the world ran away, because the world was ready. And maybe that was our shot. That was our shot. And fintech has come too far and provided a lot of user-friendly solutions for other problems, even though they're not as good as Bitcoin. Most people don't care. Now we're in the times that we're in where the world is getting crazy. No one's going to happen next. Maybe the window of opportunity was missed. And the real lesson of Bitcoin is, darn it, guys, when you have a freaking idea, act on it, execute, stop fighting over it, stop wasting so much time. But this one's too late. We wasted too much darn time with stupid infighting. Game's over. What's your response to that?
I'd say it's not over till the fat lady sings.
Now, man, I'm playing devil's advocate, though.
Yeah, I'm just saying it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and I ain't hearing anybody singing just yet. But what I would say is that if you look at what's happened to Bitcoin and you look at how things have been filtered out, look at the concentration of people that you have that are on the genuine Bitcoin now and what they are building. The acceleration in these last 12 months in terms of what is being built, people's understanding on it, is absolutely huge. And so I would say it's actually come at a perfect time, because if it did come later and all this shit did happen further on down the line, it might be too late, but we still have this window of opportunity. We might be boxed into a corner, but it ain't it's not over till it's over. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and if anything, the times that we are now in is going to force people, whether they were interested in it or not, to educate themselves a little bit more about the nature of money. You've got people now asking more and more questions about how a stimulus plan actually works,
Mm.
what it means for, you know, for this much money to be released into the economy and where it's going to come from and how they're able to do that. And if they are able to do that, why don't they just do that all the time? And why can't they just release enough money to make everyone a millionaire? Why is that a bad thing? People are starting to ask these questions. I've even seen things like in 2020, people like Ray Dalio, you know, on mainstream media saying things like cash is trash.
Mm.
And people being like, what? And him explaining what he means by that. Why so many people are removing their value from cash and placing it in other things. More people are talking about store of value and asset protection than we did when we were a little bit more comfortable 2 years ago. And this is a great opportunity to educate people about how Bitcoin contributes to philosophical discussions about money. I think it's a great opportunity for education. So I'm with you. I'm totally with you. There's an opportunity here.
Yeah, so tell you what, let me just bring up a quick article here so I can remember people's names and stuff in it. Hold on. So did you read my article called Why Bitcoin, Why It's Likely to Become the Most Valuable Thing in the World?
I don't know if I read that one or not.
All right, well, let me tell you about this one. So you're saying why can't they just simply print enough money to make everybody a millionaire? Yeah. Well, here we go. So let me just tell you about this one. So in 1532, inspired by the legend of El Dorado, which translates to the realm of the gold-covered king, Francisco Pizarro travelled across the Atlantic Ocean from Spain with his fellow conquistadors to defeat the Inca army at the Battle of Cacamara and found the Cerro Rico, which translates from Spanish as Rich Mountain. Over a period of Spanish rule lasting 250 years, more than 2 billion ounces of silver were extracted, and the Incas couldn't understand why the Europeans appeared to have such a lust for gold and silver. What the Incas failed to understand, or failed to realise, was that this metal could be made into money, a store of value, a unit of account, which meant portable power. And then it goes on down here, where it says, despite Francisco Pizarro's successful conquest of South America, which made Spain and its empire exceptionally rich, it couldn't prevent Spain's economic and political decline. The Spanish had dug up so much silver to finance their wars of conquest that the metal itself suffered an extraordinary decline in its value. The increase in the supply of silver didn't make Spain richer, it simply made prices higher and increased the quantity of money chasing the same amount of goods. The lesson the Spanish and the rest of the world soon learnt from this was that money is only worth what others are willing to give in exchange for it. Therefore, it's not the amount of money that generates wealth and economic prosperity, it's the ability to trade. This is why, despite striking it rich, Spain and its empire collapsed, whereas London, England became a nation of shopkeepers and ended up as a centre of global trade, along with the USA, and has become a financial powerhouse of the world. So therefore, it's not money. It's not money that makes people rich, because if you just increase the supply of money and it chases the same amount of goods, all you just simply do is increase prices. People are going to be back to square one. It's the ability to trade. And this is what's so fabulous about Bitcoin, because it is a tool that enables and accelerates the facilitation of trade. And trade is the most valuable thing in the world. And that's why Bitcoin is likely to become the most valuable thing in the world.
When you think about where the world is now, the hurdles that have to be overcome for people to see the value of this, being able to sift through all of the different altcoins, how long do you think it is before Bitcoin becomes, for the average person, a user-friendly experience, and we get to enjoy the benefits of having sound money?
Well, obviously, I mean, this is just my opinion, but I really don't think it'll take long at all. Like we discussed before, you know, things often take longer than you think, but they happen faster than you expect. You know, and so you've just got to look at what is about to happen, and also what's being built on the BSV network already. You know, and the fact that these huge institutions like EHR are about to put 7 or 4 years worth of medical records on chain and need to be able to do a minimum of 5,000 transactions a second in order to share that data. And then you've got ELS going on there as well. All these companies, private companies, are profit-seeking companies. And in order to make profits, there's two things you've got to do. You've got to save money and you've got to make money. And Bitcoin does both, which is why I described it the other day as it's going to be like corporate cocaine. Imagine this. And governments will not go up against corporations because corporations employ the world. Corporations are what enable people to put a roof over their head, have the heating on, food on the table. They keep them employed. It's not governments. And corporations, as in like employing people, they pay income tax. They pay corporation tax. And what do you think funds governments? What do you think keeps governments going? That's why they're saying it's the economy is so important, because if people are unhappy, they will blame the government because they're going to point the fingers at economic mismanagement at the government. And then you've got the people in government going, oh shit, well I've got to put food on my table. I want to keep my job. Well, if you want to keep your job, you better keep the economy going. And if you want to keep the economy going, you better keep corporations happy. And corporations are going to be happy making and saving money.
By the way, I think you just gave more to your answer about dealing with the central banking system, because at the end of the day, the ability to print money isn't the same thing as the ability to make people want it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't coerce love. You can coerce action, but you can't coerce love. And you can't make people value your dollars just by doubling down and saying this is it. And so when we've seen in history before governments taking it too far with printing money, and the people just decide we don't value this anymore. Right? Like I'd rather have something else other than this. I just don't want this stuff. And when that happens, that's a total game changer. And so there is always value to anchoring what you're doing in substance than in just trying to bank on what has always been done, as something that will work in the future. And I think what you're pointing out is that what Bitcoin is doing, particularly with things like EHR data, is building a truly valuable commodity that is going to become more and more demanded as time goes by. And because you can't negotiate genuine desire, people are going to want what's valuable, and no amount of money printing is going to make them value that more. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah. And it's like, well, with the current banking system, money was initially a claim on gold, because gold was the first globally recognized medium of exchange, which caused the gold rush in, I think it was 1854, something like that. 1894, something like that. But that's because gold was suddenly becoming recognized as a global medium of exchange, and then money was effectively a way to tokenize gold in order to facilitate trade and speed it up. Because rather than weighing out gold nuggets, the bank would say, well, look, just give us your gold, we'll look after it. So that means you don't have to worry about losing it, and we'll give you this certificate which is a claim on it, and then rather than weighing it out, you just simply pass it to the next person. So that is a way that facilitated trade, but inflation was the trade-off in that. But now, as we're starting to see, with the central banks just kind of like being a little bit naughty and printing money hand over fist, is going to come back to bite them, because every 10 years we get this massive bubble because money loses value so quickly. People are trying to buy other assets with it that they don't need, that maintain their value. Everybody else just simply does the same. A bubble emerges and then it pops, and it's all down to printing money. So again, this is now we're at sort of phase 2. So it's kind of like, right, first of all there was gold, then there was fiat currency. What's next? Bitcoin.
Absolutely. Let's get back to Bitcoin basics. The consensus algorithm. Explain what the consensus algorithm is and how SB differs from BTC and BCH.
The consensus algorithm. I'm saying consensus is just generally consensus agreed upon, I suppose, would be the group of miners. When you say consensus algorithm, what do you mean by that?
I might actually be misspeaking. So how does Bitcoin achieve consensus is actually a different question from what I was actually thinking of, which is the difficulty adjustment algorithm.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's what I wanted to ask about. So how does Bitcoin achieve consensus? That's question one. And then what is the difficulty adjustment algorithm, and how does the difficulty adjustment algorithm in SV differ from that of BCH?
Yeah. All right. Okay. I think I'll have a go answering this one. But you know, I have to say that this is my own interpretation of it, and I might be wrong because I'm not too techie. But this is how I understand it. So in terms of consensus, that's just kind of like consensus between all the miners on the network. They all agree that, yeah. So the difficulty adjustment is related to the SHA-256 secure hash algorithm. So SHA-256 is a massive number. In fact, you know, it's so big that you know, as in like it's an equation that can only go one way because it's so big. It can't be reversed. So in other words, the only way you would know the answer to it is if you actually knew the answer, in which case you can prove that you have the private keys to it, you know, or you just simply have to randomly guess what it is. Now, and this is what the difficulty adjustment is. So you can narrow the parameters and say, look, the answer might be within this little space here. So then all the miners start chomping away at that space, and chances are they'll find they'll crack the algorithm sooner, and therefore the miner will be rewarded with Bitcoin, and then the transaction registered on the chain. So initially you have a 10-minute block time, and the reason you have a 10-minute block time is because that's just simply the optimum amount of time to propagate a block. So all the data goes into that block, and the block gets filled up within 10 minutes. But in terms of, and this is where zero confirmation was, or instant confirmation was so critical, because obviously you can't wait for a transaction to be, you know, confirmed in a block. So basically what they're saying is with instant confirmation, as soon as the transaction is broadcast to the network, as soon as more than 50% of the nodes on the network recognize it, they're going to immediately, you know, any transaction that is similar to it, you know, like a double spend, they're just simply going to ignore. So it's really hard. It's almost impossible to double spend, because you would have to have somebody, you know, at exactly the opposite side of the network, where 50% of the nodes on the network would recognize the exact same transaction at exactly the same point in time, and have all the same nodes validate it, you know, identically, for them to both have 50%, you know, of the nodes on the network recognizing it. It's almost impossible, you know. So, but that's how it works. So you have instant confirmation of the nodes on the network, recognizing the transaction, but then the transaction just simply gets stored into the block. The block is filled up when within 10 minutes, all that data is then thrown into the hashing algorithm, which all the miners chomp away at it. And so in order to make sure that the chances are that they'll be able to find it within 10 minutes, so then they can start hashing the following block that's being created, they have to just simply narrow the difficulty adjustment, so that on average, miners will find the answer within 10 minutes.
And so based on the amount of hash power, the difficulty adjusts so that it maintains about that same amount of time.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
All right, man. Let's talk about the show. You're what, like 8 episodes deep now, something like that?
Yeah. Just had a really good interview this morning with Crown BTC, the first BTCer I've ever had on the show.
How did it go?
It went really good. It was really good. I was asking him all the questions that I wanted the answers to, and he admitted that there were problems with BTC. So I was just like, great.
Yeah. So I can't wait to watch that one. I'll let you know what I think. I've watched most of them. I still have to watch Ruth's episode and Kurt's. I know I'm gonna really enjoy those, and I've been waiting for some time where I can just sit back, enjoy a cup of coffee, not have any distractions, and just watch them. So I'm looking forward to checking those out. But what would you say has been the biggest thing you've learned so far by doing your interviews?
The challenge that I set myself was learning how to use OBS. That was quite a challenge, but I thought I did that basically within 3 days and got a show going. In terms of my show, I mean, it was more a case of, what do I think is going to work? I love the branding of the Bitcoin OGs. I was just like, this is the kind of show where it's kind of like I'm just going to be blunt with people. I'm not gonna, I don't want to offend people, but if I think somebody actually knows the answer, I'll just simply ask them straight out. Look, what's the answer to this? If somebody doesn't know the answer, like I had Crypto Daily on the other day, and she was just like, look, I'm not technical, I can't answer this. I'm not gonna make her look stupid because she's already said, look, I can't give her the answer. So that's fair enough. But anybody who like Tone Vase, who and Jimmy Song, for example, who think that they're know-it-alls. It's just like, okay, well, you're saying you know it all. Answer me this then. But in terms of what I've learned,
out to either of those guys?
Oh, I'd love to get them on the show. Yeah, just have it out. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I mean, in terms of debating, like I'm not really looking for an argument because me personally, I think that when you're talking with somebody, you are either discussing matters of fact, in which case someone's right and someone's wrong, and you just simply have to go away and find out, or you're discussing matters of opinion, on which case you just simply have to agree to disagree. It's as simple as that.
All right. So in case Jimmy Song is listening right now, or Tone Vase is listening right now, what's the value proposition for them coming on the show and talking with you? Why would they come on this show? I want you to pitch them right now. Say, here's why I want you to come on and talk to me.
All right. Well, I mean, provided they're not paid shills by Blockstream, which I suspect they are, and they genuinely want what's best for Bitcoin because it will benefit them and everybody else. And the fact is they're just simply misguided and have a limited understanding of it. Let's help them out.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. A lot of people, they'll respond to just about anything if it has to do with Craig Wright, but a lot of people seem to just ignore and avoid BSV, and I suppose some of that is because people still feel like they can afford to because it just doesn't have that mainstream narrative yet, and they can, and some people are just kind of ignoring it, thinking it will go away. But it's just interesting. I haven't seen a lot of debates between people in core and SV that actually address the difference between the network itself or the system itself, rather than just stupid back and forths about Craig this, Craig that. I'm curious. Do you think they're aware of BSV? Do you think it's just off their radar? Do you think they know that it's the real deal and they're afraid and they're trying to pretend otherwise? What's your take on what a lot of the core influencers think? Because you just said, you suspect these guys we're talking about now might be paid shills, but do you think they're even aware of BSV? What do you think their thoughts are?
Well, it's like this. I've got a mate of mine who is a typical BTCer, in the fact that he's just like, look, what are you talking about with BSV? No one's heard of it. No one knows about it. Everybody knows that, everyone has heard of Bitcoin and they know that Bitcoin is BTC. And, just listen to what Crypto finally said. She was just like, look, I don't understand what you're saying. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. They have no clue about the fundamentals of the technicalities, in the protocol and what money really is. So I mean, I heard Matty Greenspan was being interviewed by a guy called Sean from Hard Forking, and he was questioning him about BSV, and this guy Matty Greenspan was just like, I think Craig's a scammer. I don't really pay too much attention to it. He has no clue what it is. No clue. To them, they're just like, well, it's BTC, it's censorship-resistant money, it's a store of value. That's their limit. That's the limit to their understanding. And other people, like people who run exchanges, and Matty Greenspan runs eToro. I mean, they are scambling sites. That's all they are, and that's all they're interested in. They're just like, so long as people keep trading these shitcoins, their business makes money, and that's all they're interested in. That's it.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. So my mom is from the South. She's from Mississippi, born and raised. Grew up in the thick and thin of the civil rights movement here in the United States.
Wow.
And she talked about one of the little racist sayings that would circulate at that time was, if you want to hide the truth from a black person, just put it in a book, because they don't read. Right? She told me that when I was very young, man.
Right. Yeah.
And she
Wow.
told me that as part of a lesson on don't let anybody hide the truth from you.
Mm.
Don't let anybody keep you from informing yourself about the real world. Make sure you study, make sure you research, make sure you always think for yourself.
Yeah.
But I think about that statement, and then I think about the crypto space too, and I think one could say for our time that if you want to hide the truth from anyone, just put it somewhere after the first page of Google search results, because nobody looks past that. You
Mm.
know,
Well,
people people only want answers that require one thought. If an answer requires two or three thoughts, that's already too many. I'm already overwhelmed. I'm already confused. So just, you want to hide the truth, make it something that can't be understood with anything less than three thoughts. Because most people are going to quit
yeah.
after
Well,
that.
this
After
is
like a step.
this point you're making is actually really interesting because this is actually something that put Craig on my radar because I remember when there were these chain splits, and then I mean literally if you go onto CoinMarketCap and you type in Bitcoin, you obviously get Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, and then you get Bitcoin Private, Bitcoin Gold, and a Bitcoin Atomic. And I shit you not, you get Bitcoin red, Bitcoin yellow, Bitcoin green, Bitcoin blue. And I was just like, there is something wrong here. Like, what am I missing? This just doesn't sit with me. Something is happening and I don't get what it is. And then Craig, just came out with one of his Craigisms when he was just being interviewed, and just straight off the cuff, he just said, yeah, they're trying to dilute the name. And I was just like, that is it. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to dilute the name, to confuse people, to discredit it. It's all part of the political attack on Bitcoin. The political attack has been an absolute masterclass. It really has. Changing the narrative from store of value, then people were getting a little bit annoyed because they couldn't use it. Then they were just like, okay, well, okay, yeah, it's censorship resistant money, but you've got to keep the network small, and everyone's got to store it on their computers because otherwise it won't be censorship resistant. But don't clog it up, don't use it, because if you use it, nobody else can use it. I mean, it's a political masterclass on what they've done. It's brilliant.
Yeah, man, I agree. There are two ways that you can um, hide the truth. One is the way of suppression, where you use maybe a collusion of media, and you just don't reveal certain kinds of information. And for much of history, that's been relatively easy to do because our ability to access information has been controlled by a small number of authority figures or institutions. But the second way has become the way of our time, as we have more ways to communicate and access information, and that's the way of dilution.
Mm.
uh, that's when you realize you no longer have the power to suppress the truth, because there are too many people sharing stuff and putting it out there, so you can't stop it from getting out there. So what you do is you put so much crap out there alongside it
Yeah.
that when people try to research it, they're just overwhelmed by the amount of dissent, disagreement, and debate. And they just say, man, I don't have time for this. I would almost have to make a career
Mm.
out of this one rabbit hole just to be able to form an opinion. And I think that's the way of our time, where there's so much obfuscation in the form of just putting everything out there, and it's legit difficult for the average person to just, well, I don't want to say the average person, it's just legit difficult for people to go looking for answers, and to find it, because like you just pointed out, they may say, oh, this seems like a place to look, let's go to CoinMarketCap, let's type in Bitcoin, and
Mm.
what's the last thing they're going to see? The very thing that you and I believe is true Bitcoin. So it's an interesting game right now, but I have always believed that the truth finds a way to gravitate towards those who make it a priority. I heard Ravi Zacharias say once that ignorance is most often evoked not by the absence of evidence, but rather by the suppression of truth.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
think if we make a commitment to not suppressing the truth in our own hearts, that we begin to experience the outer world in a way that makes truth more readily available, because I do believe it's available to those who seek it. But I mentioned that I had a hot 30 minutes. I went over. I got another call. But brother, I enjoyed talking to you, man, and thanks for letting me, kind of flip the script and ask some of my questions. I still do have more, so I think we should do another round. But I gotta roll.
Yeah, that's right. Well, just quickly in response to what you were saying there, what I would say is that intelligent people like Isaac Newton, they come up with really good ideas, and then other people that aren't as smart enough to come up with their ideas still appreciate their ideas, and then they start rolling them out because the ideas are good. So therefore, the concentration of quality and intelligence, first of all, has to form together, and then everything else filters out. So then you've just got to look at the recent CoinGeek conference in London. I mean, the level of intelligence in that room and the number of people there was staggering. It was a brilliant conference. And like I said, when you look at all these BTCs and BTHs, they are so stupid. Other people, the only people that are going to listen to them are stupid people, and stupid people don't really understand anything that they're talking about because they're stupid. So that's going to be a downfall. And just what you were saying there about how they try and hide the truth. Blockstream actually have a troll army out there, and this is a true story, right? Me and one of the guys called Tramp, we just used to troll BTCers on Sundays because we had nothing better to do. We used to call it Trolling Sundays, where we just troll a load of BTCers for no other reason than we just wanted to. But we would get in contact with these people, and I'm not kidding you. There was one guy spent an entire afternoon on Twitter trying to explain to me that $1 was better than Bitcoin because I could spend it. Like I didn't know. He spent an afternoon telling me this. The only reason anybody would ever do that is if they were being paid to do such a useless task.
Yeah, man. That's absolutely amazing. That's absolutely amazing. I wish we could riff more, man, but I gotta hop on another call. Let's catch up soon.
Yeah, mate. Rock and roll. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
All right. Cheers, mate. See you later.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye.
Peace.